Okay, so we're here with some basic vocabulary for a circle. And so circles, a major arc is something that is represented by 3 letters. So if we look through here, and it means you go the long way around. So ABC would be our major arc because we're starting at A going through B to C. ABD means we're going all the way around AB to D, so that's also major. And BAC means we go all the way around the long way. And DAB, again, all the way around the long way. Those are our major arcs. They're represented by 3 letters. A minor arc is just the 2 letters, and which means it's the shortest distance. And so that would be AB, BC, and that's all we have for here. Semicircle is half circle. It equals 180 degrees. So we use those a lot in finding things in circles to find what that 180 degrees is. Our other rule is the central angle equals the arc. And so if this is 40, that means out here is also 40. Okay, this tells me that AC is perpendicular to BE, which means it's equal 90, because that's what perpendicular means. So that means this is 90 degrees, and this is 90 degrees, therefore that's 90, and that's 90. So when we're working with circles, we start by labeling everything we can. Our next thing we're going to do is recognize AC. AC is a semicircle, so equals 180. Going from A to C this way or A to C this way. And so that means that if we're trying to get AD, which is this part right here, it's going to equal that 180 minus 40, which equals 140. Okay, so now we have everything labeled all the way around. We can check. They all add up to 360. That's another important thing. So whole circle is 360. And so now we're going to come through and fill in the measure of each arc. So AB, we found that one was 90. ABC, we found that one was our 180. And these are all degrees. ABD is the 180 that we just found, plus 40, to give us 220. BC, we already found, that one's our 90. BAC means we're coming all the way around from B through A, all the way around till we get to C. So we could add up all of those, so that would be 90 plus 140 plus another 40. Or we could recognize the whole circle is 360, and we're using the whole circle except that little 90, so minus our 90, and that equals our 270, which if we do the math here, that's 180 plus another 90, that also becomes 270. So often in circles, there's more than one way to find it. You choose the one that makes sense to you. All right, and then last of all, DAB is just our 140 plus 90 to give us 230. Okay, so as we're working with circles, a lot of what we're doing is just like that. Sometimes we have x involved and have some equations. So very important tips. is right here. If the arcs are congruent, the angles are congruent. So we're always going to look for vertical angles, look for our semicircle, which is represented with a diameter, which equals 180, and use the whole circle equals 360. Okay, so those are the only 3 rules you need as you're working with this whole section. And so here in circle K, we're trying to find the measure of DE. So the first thing I'm doing is identifying my arc DE that they have for me. Obviously, I can't find that right away because they didn't give me the center angle. So first I'm going to look for vertical angles. Okay, 30 does not have a vertical angle, but 55 does. So remember, vertical angle is anywhere you can do the x, the opposite side is also 55. Okay, so I labeled my vertical angle. Next, I'm looking for the semicircle. So a semicircle here, it could be AD, it could be CE, so those could be both diameters. And so the one that's going to help me is to recognize here. So CE is a diameter, which means it equals 180. So to find DE, I just do my 180 minus 55 to get 125. And you can use calculators for these, but it's always good to work on your math without calculators, if possible. Alright, on our last one, we have find the value of x. So I'm going to check here, look at it, there's no vertical angles, no diameter, so that means I'm going to be dealing with the whole circle. So that means I have to use my 360 degrees. And I check. I do have enough. I have every single part to equal 360. And so I just write out my equation. My 40 plus 70 plus 75 plus 2x plus 5x. And I check that I actually have everything there equals 360. And I know that looks like a really big equation, but all I'm going to do is I add my numbers, I add my letters, and then I have a simple equation. So this becomes 40 plus 70 is 110, plus another 75 is 185, plus 7x equals 360. Now I have a simple equation. So I subtract the 185 to get 7x equals 175, divide by 7. Okay. And if you want a refresher on how to divide by hand, I write it out and say 7 goes into 17 2 times, that's 14. I subtract, I have 3 left over, 7 goes into 35 5 times, so then my answer is x equals 25. I could also type it into a calculator if I'd rather, so I can do just on your phone calculator, any little calculator you have, 175 divided by 7 to get the 25. Okay, so now we're going to go to Khan Academy, which is where your assignment for this is going to be. And this is one of your assignments that's been put up there. It's called Archimedes. And so I'm going to work through one of these assignments. You don't have to watch this if you feel like you understand it pretty well. But if you'd like me to go through the more examples, you can watch this. There is here also the videos off to the side. Those are what you can use if you're a little bit confused. You can do watch a video or use a hint option on here if it's working. And that's the other thing. I think my computer's freezing, but that's the other thing you can do. So on here, we're just going through, okay, what is the market measure of BAD? So BAD goes from here all the way around through A to D. And so we have this measure, and this measure. We know these two equal each other. So we could go ahead and subtract from 360 and divide by 2 to find out what those were. But it's going to be a lot easier to just recognize, hey, the whole thing's 360. And so I can just do my 360 minus these two numbers, which are the only ones that I don't want. So minus my 74, and then minus 42. And so again, I can do it by hand. I can type it into my calculator. As you can see, I'm not good with my drawing with my mouse here. Okay, and so I got 244, which I type in, and I click check. Okay. If you're still a little bit confused, you can then click on here and see the step-by-step solution. And I'll go through and explain it. So again, depending what your learning style is, as you're learning at home now, due to the shutdown, there's a lot of helps here. I'm showing you all of these. We'll also talk about how you can just request tutoring time with me online. But these are the built-in steps here, and they have videos linked. Okay, so that was one of my things there. The next one you're going to do is arc measures with equations. And so here we have the x, or the variable shown in. And again, if this is confusing to you, you click watch a video or you use a hint. If you use a hint, it counts the problem as wrong. So anytime you're doing the work on your own, you get full credit for it. If you're using the hints to help you through it, just know you won't get credit for that problem. But here I can look, and this is the vertical angles. And so I'm going to draw this on my paper. And I will bring the paper back up for you to see. So I would recommend always showing your work on a sheet of paper, because then if you have questions you need to come back to me and ask, then you can ask. You have a record of what you did. And so I'm just copying out the problem here. I'm checking to make sure I actually copied my numbers correctly. And then I'm going to switch back to my paper so we can solve it. And so these are vertical angles. And so they equal each other. So I have 4k plus 159 equals 2k plus 153. I subtract 2k from both sides. So now I have 2k plus 159 equals 153. Subtract 159 from both sides to get 2k equals negative 6. Divide by 2. And then I go back to Khan Academy and see, okay, I just found k equals negative 2. But that's not what it asked me for. It asks me what the arc measure of BC is. So I come back and look at BC, and I have to plug it back in. So now I have 4 times negative 3 plus 159 gives me negative 12 plus 159, which gives me 159 minus 12 is 147. That was BC. And so I go back to Khan Academy and type in the 147. I go on to the next question. Alright, so now it asks me to find CAD. So coming all the way around. There's a few different ways I could do this one. I'm going to, though, show you what happens if you get something wrong, if you don't know how to do it. So I'm just going to type in a random number, click check. It tells me not quite yet, so I can get help, and it can take me step by step through, hey, this is the way we find it. I can watch the videos, and it takes me all the way through and tells me what this is. But remember, if I'm using the hints, it is not going to give me credit for the problem. So these are the built-in helps here. I'm going to stop the video here, but remember, if you get really stuck, you can contact me and set up a tutoring session if needed.